started businesses, right? I had a construction company for a while.
Is that still going?
So I got rid of it.
Okay.
A construction company. I mean, like I've been an entrepreneur. I love the mindset. I love the challenge. I love employing people. So, like that's what I've done, right? I've done that and, started more businesses than I can, or gotten into more businesses than I could shake a stick at. Everything from technologies to construction to, you name it. Right. And, I mean, and that's what I've continued to do. I mean, I've continued to find a way to work for myself and to try to keep that mindset of how can I continue the same purpose I had while I was in the Marine Corps of making the world a little bit better.
You talk about a little bit about the construction company. Like, what first drew you to it, and like, what were your first steps? It was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do this for myself. How did you get there?
Yeah, I mean, like I liked the challenge of it, right? I liked the work of it. It was a distraction. Like I liked it's kind of like the Marine Corps, right? I mean, you're working with your hands, you're getting to build shit, you get to see your results, you get to, you get to do cool stuff, right? And that was the part of it. And being able to have employees and being able to build teams and being able to build a culture where people can be successful and all that, like that was what did it. And look, I started a construction company and I found guys that could haul ass and who knew more than me. And I surrounded myself with guys who knew more than me and who were better than me. And that's the only trick that I've got for, that I've got up my sleeve is I'm not good at anything, but I can find dudes who are. Like I can find people who are fucking really good at it. And I have the ability to find a way to make them believe in my crazy ass idea and then keep them going.
Pretty sure that's the definition of an entrepreneur. So that's good.
Right. I mean, and it's the same thing that America did for us as far as like going over and fighting wars.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So from construction, how do you transition? How do you say, you know what? Was it that you were tired of it, or you wanted to move on to something else? What was that thought process, and then how did you move into your next venture?
Yeah, I mean, I got bored with it, right? And that's my other problem is I get bored with shit really fast, and I got bored. It wasn't for me, right? Like I couldn't, honestly, there was a lot of competition I had and I couldn't drop to the level that it was going to take to fucking compete with them. And I wasn't going to compromise my morals and what I thought was right to be able to fucking compete with that shit. So, it just wasn't me. I wasn't that type of guy, probably like a used car salesman. Like I probably couldn't do that either. So, I got out of it and, I've had t-shirt companies. I've still got Own the Dash. It's an apparel company that does good. I got a Flipside Canvas, which is a canvas company. I do consulting for companies that, need leadership, or I've done integrative technology stuff. So like I've dabbled in everything. Wherever I can be an asset or I feel like I can add something to the table, then that's where I've stuck to. Like, I think if anything, I've figured out what I'm not good at all, like what I'm really not good at and what my weaknesses are. And I stay away from those. Like that's the key to being successful is knowing if you can identify what you suck at and what you really, really suck at, then you can be successful because you know where your weaknesses are and you can find somebody to cover those patches and weaknesses of what you don't have, right?
So when it comes to business, I mean, I obviously can presume where you're going with this, but would you rather try to improve your weaknesses, or you believe more so to sort of fill in the gap?
Fill the gap.
Fill the gap. More efficient?
Yeah. I mean, like you don't have to be great at anything. Like you can I live with the mindset that I'd rather be good at 100 things than to be fucking awesome at one thing. Especially in today's world. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? Like if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be fucking good at everything in that business. And the chances of you being the best or the greatest in that business is not happening, right? Like you take look at a football team. A football team is kind of like, I think football is like the game of life. A football team is kind of like your business. Do you think can you as a coach be the best quarterback? Like even a quarterback all the way down to the level, right? Can that quarterback be the best center, be the best tackle, be the best guard, the tight end? No. Best receiver? No. No. But I bet you can take that quarterback and you could put him in those positions and he would know how to function and how they work at a basic level, right? And that's how they can know how to run plays. He can read the defense, right? Like he can know how to take that information and that he's seeing and how he knows how it works and see what's not working and able to fix that. And that's what I try to do. I don't want to be I have no desire to be able to go stretch canvas better than the people who stretch my canvas. I have no desire to learn how to be a graphic designer who designs my art. I have no desire to be an accountant who does my books, right? But I educate myself on all that enough to know enough about it to be able to speak it and to be able to utilize that tool of how to move that chess piece better.
Well said. Let's go into consulting. What do you see is like the biggest advice when you're given to a business? Do you think that would be, or what is it that you can tell that you really see a common thing with entrepreneurs that are starting to consult with? Hey, this is what you need to fix.
Yeah, I mean, part of the struggle is exactly what you're talking about, right? Is knowing what you're not good at. Like the hardest part of where you see companies start struggling is when you don't like. It's one thing for you to is understanding your value of your time and understanding how to grow and scale. Most companies start out like I did with my canvas company. I started out stretching the shit by hand myself. Am I good at fucking stretching? No, I'm not. I'm not good at all. Like literally, I mean, can I do it? Yeah, I mean, I could do it. But if I'm not, there's people who do it better. But like, how do you being able to scale that and understanding, like for me, my biggest struggle of everything is getting too down in the weeds. Right? Like if I hire somebody to do something and they can't do it and I have to be there overwatching them and walking them through everything, then I'm actually losing money, because if I'm paying that position, let's just use easy numbers. Let's say I'm paying for a graphic designer, I'm paying $50 an hour. And let's say that I come in there and I'm helping him every hour that he has to be doing it, then take my time and add on to it. So you're actually in the black of what, you know what I mean? Of what you're losing money. And it's like how to stay out of the weeds and let people do their own and hold them accountable, push them. And that's probably been my biggest struggle of, and I'm getting better at it, but like of understanding that there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And that's what I see a lot in these businesses is not willing to let people go, not standing back and staying in your lane.
Well, because I think people have trouble valuing and putting a dollar amount of value on themselves, right? Like it's not all about dollars, but in your example, I mean, it's a perfect example. If you're the CEO, if you're the executive of the company, and you're investing 4.5 hours a day supervising at a microscopic level,
yeah,
I mean that $50 just skyrocketed to $75-$80 spread out over 4 hours.
When where I would catch myself, you take my canvas company when I was doing this transition piece of growing. I started out and I was just literally in the warehouse and there was nothing to it. Like I could keep up with it. I was literally in the office every single day. And I was like, well, that's where I gotta be. Like I gotta be back here with the guys. Right. Like, and that's fine. Like, that's fine. But that's an office manager or a warehouse manager level. It's not the CEO level. And what I would catch myself doing is I would go out on the road and I'd be focused on the top end of the business of the branding, marketing, sales, which the 30,000 foot view. So then I'd get a bunch of orders in. Next thing you know, I'd have to be back in the warehouse getting the orders out. And then while I was in there getting the orders out for the next 2 weeks, my sales would drop because nobody's focusing on the other. And you can't do both, right? Like you can't. It is an impossibility to be able to knock out both.
So then at what point do you bring somebody in?
That's the point, right?
Yeah,
like that's the point of that piece of it. Like obviously you have to look as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to look, there's going to be days that you're going to have to go back there and sweep the fucking floors and clean the toilets. Like you're never above that. And I always say that, like, yeah, I'm never too good to if it closes, if something happens tomorrow for me to step in any position to be able to fulfill that for a moment in time. But it's not like that's not the business plan. You know what I mean? So when do you transition that over? When the company can sustain it, right? Like, but either way, like when you see people saying, well, my company's profiting this year, okay. But you're the one you're doing it out of your garage and you're not billing for the time that it would take in the facility that you need. And you're the one doing all these roles and positions, but you're only paying yourself in a small role. You're not profiting yet. You're not.
That's a good point.
Even that first hire, you might have to, like, instead of paying yourself, you might want to still go free and use that money to pay somebody in an area that you said that you suck at.
Yeah, but you're still not in the profit, right? And that's where, like, I struggled with that for a long time.
I'm struggling with that now. Yeah.
But even all the time you put into that company, and I understand that, look, obviously you don't have to take that, but you have to be billing your hours to that company if you want to get a good look at, is your company truly profitable, right? Like whatever hours you're putting into it, bill it at the rate that it would take if you had to pay somebody else. And you don't have to pay yourself that, but it needs to be account receivable so that you understand at what point that company has, because it's not just the monetization or the monetization piece that you've put into that, but it's also the piece that of your time and equity and sweat equity that you've put into that company. That's also a huge value as well, right?
Yeah, well, I think people get lost in sort of the idea of what's going on, and maybe if they're having an upswing, it's all roses and rose gardens, and you're right though. Taking that step back and taking the hard look and actually looking, and again, going back to what I said earlier, is putting a dollar amount on your time and your effort.
You have to. You have to, because it's not fair to the business if you don't.
Yeah, and I even for my own business. I mean, this is my third business now. First two were basically washed.
Yeah.
Right. And even now, I'm still going through. Like I forgot that lesson. Like, you know, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm doing pretty decently. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, obviously we're in a pretty challenging time, but you know, you start to go downward again. And they're like, oh well, I thought I was here, but I wasn't really giving myself a real representation where I was at. I was sort of living in like this fantasy world where, like, oh, it's just all uphill from here. You know, I can go and do this, and this. And then you overextend yourself, and next thing you know, you're looking back like, where the fuck did all the money go? Where did all the effort go? You know?
Yeah. And I tell you, the other thing I see is I usually, like, I have to watch myself on wasting a lot of time on shit that I think matters in my head, but really doesn't matter. Right. Like getting that logo there. Like honestly, you can change your logo down the road. Nobody gives a shit about your logo. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that. Right. You think about all this, I got to have it. It's insane. I'll give you a perfect example. So I was so hell bent on, and I don't know why it still makes me sick to think about it, but I was so hell bent on caring about what my stretcher bars were made out of under my canvas. And I was like, they had to be 2.5 inches thick. And I don't know why I was so hell bent on that, like so hell bent. And we found, like, I wouldn't even switch it to 2.25. Like, I would just freak out. Like, no, there's no fucking chance we're switching from 2.25. I don't care if it is a 30% difference cheaper. I'm like, the customers will know. They'll start bitching and it'll be on. I switched it like a year ago, and nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? And
it's the ego.
It's the ego. And it's just like one of these deals of, like, it's insane. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the hard part of understanding of what's the value of trying to figure out what is the value of your product to that customer, and what is your thoughts, right? Like, they're two different things.